Oh, amigo.
Disordered Dags, Season 1, Episode 1, with your hosts, Jeremy, the guy with ADHD who's a daggy dresser and a bit of a cringe dad, and
And Sandon, the 20-something with autism who's so neurospicy he'll tell you about every movie that's ever existed.
oh, there we go. We had no plan on what to talk about. We were just going to go by prompts or just, what do you call it? Just go where the wind blows us. Movies sounds like a good place to start, though, with you, Sandon.
Yeah, I guess we could start with that. Yeah,
Top five
I've
movies of all
been
time.
okay, yeah. Just top five or
I don't know.
because I've got
Do what you want.
yeah,
That's my
I've got
offer. Do what you want with it.
yeah. I've got a top 10 and kind of a tentative top 25, but um
Jesus.
yeah,
I don't think we'll get through
yeah,
25 in 1 hour.
yeah. Yeah, that we'll have to make it a very long podcast if we were doing that, but yeah, I'll
All right,
I'll,
let's see
I'll
if we
start.
agree. Number one movie of all time, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, so that's mine. Is that yours?
That's mine. I'm just seeing if we agree. I thought we did.
Yeah, yeah, that's my numero uno as well.
I mean, it's got everything in it everywhere all at once. So how could it not be? Like, it's got all the rest of everything in it. So it's got to be number one, yeah?
Yeah, it's with a title like that, you'd kind of expect it to be everyone's favorite movie because it's got like, yeah, just everything in it, everywhere and all at once.
It's a lot to live up to, though. Could have could have flopped big time.
Yeah, there is actually a movie out there called Nothing, and I've been wanting to see that for a long time, and I wonder if that would live up to the title.
Probably not. Hey, here we go. First tangent. What's his name? What's that book? How to um, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That book. Have you read it?
Yeah, yeah, I love that book.
Me too. But it didn't quite live up to. I thought it was going to teach me how not to give a fuck about anything, but instead, it's like you have to give a fuck about the one or two or three most important things, and not give a fuck about anything else. So I was hoping to learn how to not give a fuck about anything because that would be easier.
Yeah, I, interestingly, that I often rate that as my number one book that I've ever read.
Have you
Um,
read Everything Is
but yeah,
Fucked?
yeah, I have read Everything Is Fucked. Yeah.
I think that might be even better, especially it's very topical talking about AI, and I love his. Even though the title is Everything Is Fucked, he actually has a very optimistic view of what how AI might make the world a better place.
Yeah, because isn't the little tagline under the book, it's like everything is fucked, a book about hope.
Oh, is it? Okay. I
So-
I missed the subtitle.
yeah,
I'm
it's in much smaller letters, but
I'm reading a book right now. I've told you about the Keith and the Girl podcast that I've been listening to for 19 years. Well, um, on there was a saga a couple of years ago where he Keith Malley, the Keith of Keith and the Girl, catfished his dad for a year. So his dad sent his ex-wife 2 years after they divorced. His dad sent his ex-wife an email that said, "Well, here, I'll tell you what it said. It said, um, got the book sitting right in front of me. It said, mm, 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 nah, forget about it. Anyway, um, Come on, I want to find it. What's the second best movie, or was the more you wanted to say on Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Um, yeah, oh, I'll actually, I could talk about other movies in my top 10 that I think are quite underrated. Um,
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
come back to this book after
oh, okay, yeah.
after we talk about movies, if I remember.
Yeah. If you find it, we can get back to it.
I found it, but let's go back to the first topic for now. We could have done the Mike Kaplan, what he did on his last album, where he started something and then finished it at the end of the album, and then started the second thing and finished that second last. But anyway, that was a lot more planned out. This is supposed to be a natural conversation.
Yeah, we'd be ripping off the movie Memento if we did that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I watched that the other day. Have you ever watched that in chronological order?
Um, no, how would you do
It's pretty
that? No,
fascinating.
I've only,
I didn't know you
yeah,
could. So it's an Easter egg on the DVD. Apparently, there's some special way that you can go in and put in some Easter egg special code or something, and it'll play the movie in chronological order. But I don't have a DVD player, so I just torrented it in chronological order, and it's interesting. It really changes the tone so that you feel a lot less sorry for him, and you see him as a lot more of a psychopath when you watch it in which means because basically you're seeing the story through everyone else's point of view instead of through his own when it goes in chronological order, and yeah, he just comes out as much more of a psychopath and much less. You feel much less forgiving of him watching it in chronological order. It's crazy how much it changes just by changing the order of the scenes.
yeah. I could imagine. Yeah, how much that would just make him look, yeah, a lot less sympathetic if you
Sympathetic, that's the word I
watched
was
it
looking
that
for.
way.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
check it
yeah.
out.
I'm almost.
Maybe next time you need to watch a movie, check that out. You probably
Yeah,
have
I
the
think
DVD.
I've.
You have a bunch of DVDs, don't you?
Yeah, I've got heaps. I think I might actually have the Blu-ray of Memento.
Yeah, look
And
it
yeah,
up. See if
it's
there's an Easter egg on the Blu-ray to watch it in chronological order. It's like a whole
yeah,
different
yeah,
movie.
yeah. That would just like change the whole vibe of the movie. Yeah,
Yeah. So, okay, what were you saying about obscure titles in your top 10?
yeah. So basically, my number six, seven, and eight favorite movies are like movies that most people wouldn't know from a bar of soap. Except Fight Club because that's about soap. But no. um,
That's
the
not one of your six, seven, or eight, is it?
no,
We all
no.
know about Fight Club.
Unfortunately, it didn't. Yeah. Yeah, we
Fight
shouldn't
Club
even be
was,
talking about it, but
yeah, we shouldn't, but it was my favorite movie for 24 years. It took 24 years for
oh
another movie
wow,
to beat it. What's that?
yeah,
Yeah,
and that
from
was everything
1999
everywhere.
until last year when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out. It was my Fight Club was my favorite
Yeah,
movie of all time. Okay, so six, seven, and
I
eight.
think
Tell me about them.
yeah. So the six is Old Joy, seven is Goodbye Solo, and eight is Jeff Who Lives at Home. And
Is Goodbye Solo a sequel to Solo, a Star Wars movie?
um, yeah, but it no robots.
Okay, so tell me about these movies.
Yeah, so I think yeah, the one that I like all of them for different reasons, but yeah, they're all just very like really comfort movies for me. They have yeah, I find them quite relaxing to watch and um yeah, they just have really lovely like stories about um characters sort of going through everyday struggles and um yeah, they're yeah, Old Joy is actually on YouTube for free. So which is pretty cool. But yeah, that one's just really like yeah, it's almost like an ASMR movie. It's just so relaxing and meditative. It's just about these two friends who catch up after not seeing each other for a long time, and then they go on this road trip together to this um yeah, out in uh this like rainforesty area in Oregon in the US, and uh yeah, actually Old Joy and Goodbye Solo have two locations in it that if I ever went back to the United States, I'd really want to check out those two places because they just seem like such lovely um like places in nature.
Cool.
Yeah, have you heard of Bagby Hot Springs or Blowing Rock?
Mhm. No, Blowing Rock sounds like an American Indian name.
Yeah, it does a little bit. Yeah, it's actually called that because it's where it's like one of the only places in the world, or maybe the only place where the wind, because of how it's positioned, the wind actually blows upwards. So when you go to the edge of the this blowing rock, yeah, you can throw a stick over the edge and it actually flies back up into the air.
Say that again?
Oh, yeah, it's you can like the wind sort of goes upwards because of where the rock is. So yeah, you can
Right.
throw a stick over the edge and it flies back up into the air.
Crazy. So this is in the movie. Which movie is this in?
Goodbye Solo.
Goodbye Solo. Do you know? Do you know what that's streaming on?
NeedleinaHaystack.com. Like, yeah, I've got no idea. It it's one of those movies. It's like
It might not
virtually.
be.
I actually, yeah, I actually found out there's like no physical copies of it in Australia. So,
Oh, geez.
um, yeah, it's like a really like super indie, no one's heard of it kind of movie.
Hmm. Trying to think. Trying to think if there's any. Oh, I don't think there's any movies like that in my top five. Definitely, probably in my top 10. A friend of mine made a super indie movie that I think the only people that I know who have heard of it are people that I've told about it.
Oh, okay,
It's
and
free.
that's in your top.
Yeah, it would be in my top 10. It's very relatable to me. So it's called Escaping Freedom. It's on YouTube. I don't remember if it's free or if you have to pay for it, but I think it might be free on YouTube, but might be wrong. Anyway, it's a friend of mine. It's called Escaping Freedom, and this friend and I were both in a fundamentalist church together in America. Let's see, I left 25 years ago. I'm not sure exactly when he left, whether he left before or after me, but yeah, the movie's about what it's like to feel kind of trapped in that kind of place where you think you're happy, which that begs the question: if you think you're happy, then I guess you probably are. I don't know, but but
Yeah.
uh, but I definitely ended up a lot happier out of it than I was in it. Yeah, I really like the title, "Escaping Freedom." Like, obviously, if you have to escape it, it's not real freedom. But
Yeah, it's almost a
it's
bit of a oxymoron, escaping freedom.
yeah. So the main two characters are a pastor is the main character, and his sister, who's like a drug addict. So they both. He's got his addiction to the church, and she's got her addiction to drugs, and neither one of them are actually happy. And he turns out to be gay, which is not, which is completely a sin according to the church that he is a part of, as well as the real church that my friend and I went to. And my friend, I don't remember if he's gay or bisexual, one of the two. But um, yeah, trigger warning. There's suicidal stuff in it. Um,
Oh, okay.
I had I watched it with two friends together, one of whom never was a part of that kind of church, and one who was. And the one who wasn't was never part of that kind of church. He was like, I didn't really like it. I thought the acting was all fake and whatever. And and the other friend who had been a part of that kind of church and I were like, oh, I thought the acting was perfect. They were acting, yes, they were coming off fake, and that's exactly what it was like at the evangelical churches, like fake smiles and um, yeah,
Oh,
fake
okay. Yeah,
connections. And
that's interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
I, I don't mean to. I don't want to totally denigrate it because I definitely had real connections there as well, and
Mm.
some real happiness as well. But I guess there's something always underlying that. I don't know. I always was pretty sure that I would have told you I was 100% certain that I believed. There's always some niggling doubts. I'm listening to a
Yeah.
podcast right now called what's it called? I wonder how nuts it. So I love that our title is Disordered Dags because I'm sure that any neurotypical people listening to this will get driven nuts by us never completing the topics that we start with,
Yeah.
like top 10 movies. Um, yeah, feel free to interrupt me anytime and shift the subject too. I'm the one who's been doing that with my ADHD. Uh,
Yeah, I'll step in with my autism and just talk about trains for an hour.
do you have do you actually have an interest in trains, or are you just talking about the stereotype?
um, I guess a bit of both. I am actually kind of interested in like this. Yeah, like I've always kind of been interested in lists of things and yeah,
Wow.
like even just like the stops from one like on one train line I've always found kind of interesting. Like yeah,
Hmm.
like to this day I can still rattle off all the stations from on the Gympie North Line in Brisbane and just because I caught it so much. So um that yeah, that's kind of one aspect of trains I'm but it's not really the trains themselves, it's more the like the train stations and all the different train lines and what stops are on them and things like that.
That makes me think of when I lived in. I moved away from Japan in 2005, so it's been 19 years, and I still have the train announcement when the train pulls into the station where I worked, um, stuck in my head. It's Osaka, Osaka desu. Wasaremono no nai yo ni go chui kudasai, which means Osaka. This is Osaka. Uh, please be careful of things left behind.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a spiritual thing to you could almost interpret that metaphorically as well as physically.
And
They
that
might say
reminds
like,
me of when I took my daughter when she was 3 years old. The two of us went on a daddy daughter trip, just the two of us. And because we had a newborn baby at home. And so I just wanted to give her, the 3 year old, some attention. She was used to being an only child. And all of a sudden she wasn't. So the two of us took a train trip together to Bundaberg, and when we were sitting at the train station waiting for the train, she goes, "Daddy, the whole world is a train station," which I'm not sure what that means, but it was very philosophical.
Yeah, wow, that's yeah, that makes
I'm
me
not sure
think
if she
of
even
like
meant anything by it.
yeah, I was expecting you to say that she followed it up by saying, "Oh, the whole world's a train station and every stop is part of your soul," or something like that.
Right, right. Like Shakespeare's "The whole world is a stage, and all the people merely players." Um,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but she, yeah, I don't know. Have you read the Dr. Seuss book, All the Oh the Places You'll Go?
Yeah, I have read that one. Yeah, that's a really good one.
I don't know if that inspired that statement because in that movie, um, huh, in that movie, it says uh, sometimes I get stuck at the waiting place where everyone is waiting, waiting for a train to come or a bus to come, or a plane to, or this or that, or whatever. I don't remember if she had heard that story yet or not.
Yeah, oh, that's a line in Oh, the Places You'll Go.
Yeah, it's like a full like couple of stanzas, really. It's,
Yeah, 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 whenever I think of that book, sometimes I think of this meme I saw once, and it was the cover of Oh, the Places You'll Go, but instead of saying Oh, the Places You'll Go, it just said oh, the things you'll need to unlearn to become a halfway decent person.
yeah, right.
And yeah, um, yeah, that meme's always stuck with me as um being quite a interesting play on that. Oh, so I think there might be a few other memes that change it, and it's like oh, the dietary requirements you might need or thing whatever.
Yeah, it's my. I think it's definitely 100% my favorite children's book. I think it might be my favorite book. Full stop. It's just so inspiring and just you know the space of a children's book, but it's a very inspiring diatribe for life. Here's that bit. It says, "You can get so confused that you'll start in to race down long wiggled roads at a breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across weirdish wild space, headed, I fear, toward a most useless place, the waiting place. For people just waiting, waiting for a train to go or a bus to come or a plane to go or the mail to come or the rain to go or the phone to ring or the snow to snow or the waiting around for a yes or no or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting, waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for the wind to fly a kite, or waiting around for Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting."
Yeah. Wow, that was a great rendition. Um, yeah, a lot of those Dr. Seuss books are. I've actually literally got one right in front of me now. I realized I had one in my room, and I don't think it's got because it's one with a couple. I think it's got the Lorax. Um, oh yeah, another one that I love is
Oh, I lost you for a second. Sorry. Those Dr. Seuss books,
oh,
hopefully the
about
listeners heard you, but I lost you for a second. You said those Dr. Seuss books, and then I lost you.
yeah. I was just saying that yeah, I've always loved how inspiring Dr. Seuss books are, and I've actually got. I realized I've got one in my room, and I just pulled one out. Yeah, because it's like a three-in-one Dr. Seuss book, and another one is did you ever read did I ever tell you how lucky you are?
No.
Oh, that one's really inspiring too. That I feel like that one's just got great messages for young kids, and even as an adult, I find I love reading Dr. Seuss. It's just so
Yeah.
it's
I mean, a lot of it's
maybe
nonsense, but
Yeah, I feel like it can even be more fun to read as a adult because the
Yeah,
wordplay and the rhyming is so sophisticated and
yeah. Do you
yeah,
want to
but
do
but
you want to read a bit?
yeah, I could read a bit of Did I ever
Maybe
tell you how lucky?
inspire me.
Yeah. Um, Settle down, listeners. This is children's story time of the podcast. Uh, um, yeah, I'll try and find a really good passage. Uh, okay, yeah, I'll start a bit from the beginning. When I was quite young and quite small for my size, I met an old man in the desert of Dries, and he sang me a song I will never forget. At least, well, I haven't forgotten it yet. He sat in a terribly prickly place, but he sang with a sunny, sweet smile on his face. When you think things are bad, when you feel sour and blue, when you start to get mad, you should do what I do. Just tell yourself, Ducky, you're really quite lucky. Some people are much more, oh ever so much more, oh much more unlucky than you. B- be glad that you don't work on the Bungle Bung Bridge that they're building across Booba Bay at Bum Ridge. It's a troublesome world. All the people who are in it are troubled with troubles almost every minute. You ought to be
Mm.
thankful a whole lot for the places and people you're lucky you're not. Thank you very much. I'm here till Thursday.
Okay. Have you ever been to a poetry reading, a poetry whatever, poetry jam?
Um, I like slam poetry and
Yeah,
I think that yeah, I've been to a couple of yeah, live slam poetries and yeah, some of them are pretty inspiring, especially when people get up and do the whole slam poetry and it's really like,
yeah,
yes, they tell us we are not here. Yes, we are. Yes, I am your son and yes, you are, and they're really inspiring about it.
yeah. Hey, movie buff. What poem does the axe murderer in So I Mar- or no what poem does Mike Myers read in So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Um, is it the man from Ironbark? I oh, hang on, I
I
just
think
gotta.
it's original, but I don't actually remember. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I was gonna say don't tell anyone that I haven't seen that, but yeah, I still haven't seen that movie,
Oh my god,
which is terrible
it
for
was
my movie.
too yeah, it's too non obscure for you.
Yeah, I guess
I want to hear your whole top. I want to hear your whole top 10 list. If 6, 7, and 8 are those obscure ones, then that would mean the others are less obscure. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once seems like the kind of film that would be a cult classic, like very niche. But it won a didn't it like I think it won the most awards any movie's ever won in awards season, and that's by only counting awards that existed back when um, the the previous winner had done it.
yeah, I think it yeah, because it won Best Picture and it won like
Yeah,
a
but I'm not
huge
talking
amount
about
of
just the
awards.
Oscars. So out of all the award shows, like the Oscars and the Golden Globes and the whatever, all the award shows that existed back when whatever movie it beat uh, had the record for the highest number of prizes won, awards won. Yeah, it got more than any movie ever has,
Yeah,
which
yeah, and
is
like you said, it's the kind of movie that doesn't feel like it would get that because it's
no.
got a quite an indie kind of it still feels quite epic and big, but yeah, it also feels like more of a
But I
cult
think it,
classic.
yeah, I think it was, even though I think they did a good job with their budget, but it was kind of an indie budget, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it did have a very small budget overall. Yeah.
Although, can you really? I don't understand how. I don't think indie is the right word because A24 is a studio. It's just a smaller one. So in
Yeah.
it's not indie. It's just small studio.
Yeah, I think it had like five people working on the VFX team and like yeah, so it had like it had quite a small like crew overall, but and apparently I heard they actually started the the day that they started the COVID lockdowns, like the first ever COVID lockdowns was the last day of filming for them, so yeah, and they were able to like film and do everything they needed with with masks on and all the safety rules, but yeah, it's pretty crazy that literally on the last day of filming is when the COVID lockdown happened.
Oh, the last day of filming. I thought you
Yeah,
said the
yeah.
first day of filming. Well, that's good that
Oh
they were
no,
nearly
the
finished.
last one. Yeah, yeah, that's
I
like
heard
really good luck.
is Doctor Strange a multiverse movie?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, because the
I think
second
that
one was called yeah, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
yeah, and I think that came out. It came out before Everything Everywhere All at Once, and they were like, "Oh man, that's what we're doing." But it's I
Yeah,
never saw that Doctor Strange one.
yeah, I saw the first Doctor Strange, I think,
Me too.
but yeah, the sequel in the Multiverse of Madness came out like a few months after Everything Everywhere, I think, and
Oh, it
everyone
came
was
out
saying,
after
"Oh,
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
yeah, yeah, I think it came
Maybe
out
maybe
after."
Spider Man's what they were bemoaning. Anyway, it became like when they started making the movie. I don't think there were uh, there were any popular multiverse movies, and then by the time it came out, like it was a little bit overdone.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's quite lucky that it stayed popular, given that there were so many other like even bigger movies that had the whole multiverse thing.
yeah, but I think they did it best.
Yeah, I feel like, and that's what I think most people said is that, yeah, Everything Everywhere did the best interpretation of the multiverse.
Yeah, I think Spider Man was cool. Like it was a cool way to explain. Did you see what was that? No Way Home? Is that Spider Man?
I
The one that
think it
had
was
all
the
the different Spider Mans in it?
animated.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that
no,
that was
the live action
in
one. The live action one that had like Tobey Maguire and um like it had three different people who have played Spider Man in major roles, all playing their own version of Spider Man.
yeah, was that I think that was the Marvel one, wasn't it, with Tom Holland
Yeah,
playing Spider-Man?
Tom Holland. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Tom Holland and I'm not Jerry Maguire. I'm Tobey Maguire, and I remember who the third one was. But that
And
was cool,
Andrew Garfield.
because there was that whole thing with Sony and Marvel and who owned Spider Man and whatever. So they kept making independent movies. So that was a cool explanation on why it was different actors playing Spider Man.
Yeah, yeah. Andrew Garfield was the other one who played Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah, but then there was the animated Spider-Man movie, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the
That's
Spider-Verse
part
was
one,
the
right?
sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
was
I've seen the first one, and but I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't paying that much attention. It was on, the kids had it on, and I came in and out of attention. It did seem cool what I saw of it, but I haven't seen the second one, and the second one I've heard people raving about, like people. people who don't necessarily like many movies because you're interesting. Um, you've seen every movie, not every movie, but you've seen so many movies and you still enjoy them. Like usually critics and people that watch all the movies, they start not liking very many movies.
Yeah, yeah, I think I can find sort of enjoyment in pretty much any movie, like even if it's a new big Hollywood movie or a little indie movie, I can seem to like
Yeah,
find at least something in it that I enjoy. And yeah, I think it's good I don't get too sort of jaded like a lot of
yeah.
movie critics get.
I think I've kind of got that a little bit that way with TV, maybe even movies, but it's not that I don't like them. I just, TV especially, I have trouble getting into them anymore, TV shows. I don't know if, I don't know if it's social media's fault that I'm used to watching, 1 to 3 minute videos. I just don't feel like sitting down but I don't know. Like I still watch. I just binge. I finished Friends while I've been in hospital. I started a couple months ago, and I watched all 10 seasons. That was interesting. That was my favorite show when it was on, and I never noticed the first time around that it's just full of gay jokes. Like almost every
Yeah,
episode has.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Did that detract from your enjoyment of it, or?
Not too much, but they weren't vicious. Like in some ways, I felt like. mm, I don't know. I felt like they were trying to be a little bit progressive and like show gay relationships, but they were like background players, and it was the fact that have you watched the series?
Only like little bits and pieces of it, but not really enough
Right.
to really get a clear view
So
on it.
so Ross's first wife, left him in the very first episode because she fell in love with another woman. So it's kind of like they show their relationship, but and everyone's okay with it, except that it ruined Ross's marriage, and so yeah, I don't know. That's the only main gay relationship, and then they talk about gay relationships as if they're okay, except they're always making jokes about each other being gay and whatever, which is definitely I don't know. It's still probably normal. It was definitely normal back then, but um, I didn't find the jokes to be like vicious or mean spirited or anything. It was more just a matter of how many there were and how there were several in every episode, and it just is a bit hack. um, like it was even
Yeah.
if even if it wasn't. I think they were like overdoing gay jokes overall. Everyone was overdoing them back in those days. But even if it wasn't everybody else, they just overdo them in their own show. But that's again, originally you would watch one episode each Thursday for 20 weeks out of the year with a few reruns stuck in between. So you wouldn't necessarily notice that it was all the time until you're binging it. TV wasn't made for binging back then.
Yeah, I guess that's a big difference now because you can binge TV shows, you can really pick up on a lot more than when you just watched it week to week. Yeah, you wouldn't. Um, I guess you'd see some patterns and things that would often come up, but they wouldn't. Yeah, you probably wouldn't be constantly saying like, "Oh, why are there so many of these types of jokes in the show?" I mean, you might, but yeah, it would be a lot harder to detect that when you had to watch it week to week.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I think it said
I
your
lost.
microphone went off.
Yeah, sorry. I was sharing on TikTok that we're live. We're recording our first episode live. But yeah, going out of the app. cut my microphone. I'll admit that's what happened the first time as well. So sorry about that. I won't multitask anymore. Um, so what were you saying?
Y yeah, and I was just saying that the yeah, like it back when you had to watch shows week to week, it might have been a bit harder to pick up on like a consistent theme in the show. Yeah, whereas now, like, because you can binge shows, it's easier to say, oh, why are there so many of these types of
Yeah,
jokes or
yeah.
whatever
So
happening
probably
over and over?
comedy, like repetition can be annoying in anything, but in comedy especially, like uh, I don't know, jokes get old. Although one of my favorite, uh, one of my favorite, okay, my favorite late night talk show host ever is David Letterman, and what I love about his style of comedy is that beats he beats a joke like a dead horse until it's not funny anymore, and then he keeps beating it until it's funny again.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a hard type of humor to make funny.
Yeah, because like well, like on TikTok, I've been doing the whole thing where I do dad jokes, and um, I basically just have one joke with it, which is that I explain the joke with dad jokes for me is that I then explain the dad joke as if the audience isn't laughing because they don't understand it, instead of that they're not laughing because it's a stupid joke. Um,
Yeah.
but if I were to do that, like I do that, every 3 hours or so, I'll post a joke with that same joke. um,
Yeah.
but if I were to do like 5 or 10 minutes of that on stage, I don't know if, yeah, it would get. I think it would do that. If I kept doing it, it would get old, and people would stop laughing, and then the fact that I kept doing it even after it wasn't funny anymore would make it funny again. But
Yeah.
it's really hard to sit in that awkwardness.
Mm.
Like I think I really like The Office, particularly the British version, and actually that makes sense with my name on TikTok is Cringe Dad, and that's the whole premise of The Office is it's just cringe humor. In fact, when I used to binge The Office, I would find I couldn't watch more than one episode at a time, maybe two at most, but it gets so cringy that you just after a while you're like I still find it funny, but after a while you just I don't know, you get sick of cringing, I guess. Did you watch
Yeah.
British the British The Office?
Yeah, I've seen all of the British one. And yeah, I
Yeah.
do, as much as I do like love that type of British humor, sometimes it can, and I found that with The Office, like sometimes it got so cringy and awkward to the point where it was almost like a bit depressing, like
Yeah,
like
maybe
you would
that's
just
the
want,
word, depressing. Because
yeah,
I mean, I don't know about you, but like I think probably this would be a typical neurodiverse thing. Is like I saw myself in him, the awkwardness and whatever. So it's like, oh shit, I'd say something like that, and then and then I sit there in that awkwardness, and so like yeah, I could feel it as if I was in it myself.
yeah. I think I felt that too, and um, sometimes you were just seeing Ricky Gervais just get into so many just awkward situations to the point where, yeah, it was almost like a just a bit depressing to see like that many like soul crushingly awkward
Yeah.
situations, and it feels so much more real, I think, in when like British comedy shows do it compared to
Well, what
American
about
ones, I think.
well, what about um, Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah, that
That's very similar.
Yeah, I really need to watch more of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but from the
Me
what
too.
clips of it I've seen, yeah, that show does it really well too.
And he's playing like I think Ricky Gervais is actually I think his cringe comedy characters. I get the feeling that they're sort of based on himself, but like turned way up. But but Larry David, the character actually has the same name, and like it's probably turned a little bit up, but I think it's pretty accurate to what his everyday life is really like. Not even turned. I would think not even turned up. Just all the awkward scenes are put together in an episode that might normally in real life take place over 3 or 4 days, but it all takes place in half an hour on the show. So it's only amplified by putting all the events right next to each other. But I feel like the events are pretty similar to things that would have happened in his real everyday life.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
feel like it, yeah,
that
you go.
George and Seinfeld was based on Larry David.
Um, oh no, I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
he is.
I know the basis of Curb was that Larry David wanted to be more of part of Seinfeld than he was, so it was kind of his opportunity to like make his own
Oh,
kind of show that he wasn't able to sort of contribute to on Seinfeld as much as he wanted, or something like that.
yeah, interesting. I wonder if he wanted to play George. I I would have thought that if he did, he would have they would have let him. But I got the feeling he didn't want to act back then. I don't know. I'd be
Yeah,
interested to find out. That's I love his story. His story is inspiring to me because I feel like I know of a few people who find me hilarious, and I think most people don't get my sense of humor at all, and uh, so they don't really find me funny. But Larry David apparently was kind of like that. His stand up, from what I've heard, this might be an exaggeration, but I've heard his stand up bombed all the time. But Jerry Seinfeld
yeah,
was always in the back just cracking up. Jerry Seinfeld found him hilarious, even though most of the audience didn't really get him. And that's all it took. When Jerry was offered his own sitcom, he said, sure, but only if my friend Larry can come write and uh, produce or whatever, direct with me, whatever it was. Um, so, yeah, I just have to find one person, one person who gets a good chance that finds me hilarious.
yeah, and maybe because did David help write a lot of the Seinfeld episodes? Because maybe
Yeah,
that was
I
his.
think I think Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld were the head writers of the show. The two of them worked
Oh,
together to
okay.
write it, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, and I think I heard as well that the reason the show was called Curb Your Enthusiasm was because there was quite a lot of hype before it came out that it was going to be like, yeah, like the Larry David's opportunity to make his own Seinfeld or have his own passion project, but because he's quite like self-deprecating and that very like sort of Jewish New Yorker kind of self-deprecating humor, he called it Curb Your Enthusiasm because he wanted to
Yeah,
say to people like, oh, like you're really excited and enthusiastic about it, like, but I'm gonna curb that a bit and don't get too excited.
yeah. Don't get your expectations too high.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
handle that kind of stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should. Maybe that could be an assignment. I've watched. I don't know how. I've watched like um, one or two, maybe three seasons, and I think there's at least 10. So there's heaps of it I haven't watched. Although I tuned into an episode of the final series. I believe. I believe they're in the final series right now. Which anyway, and it's going to go off on a tangent, but I decided not to. Um, I saw on an aeroplane an episode of the final series, and I was like, oh, nothing's really changed. It's the same old Larry 10 years later. So,
Yeah.
but and I don't know. Yes, it's similar to Seinfeld in that it's not really story based. It's much more character based, and since the characters don't change, the jokes are not necessarily that much different. But anyway, we could maybe between episodes, both of us should start binging. Um, well, I'm going to anyway. It's up to you. I've finished Friends, and I've almost finished. After I finished Friends, I started on American Crime Story. The first series of that is the O.J. Simpson, the People versus O.J. Simpson, and
Oh, yeah.
um, Robert Kardashian. I haven't watched it. Have you watched it?
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
So I've been watching it while I've been in hospital, and because I don't remember really seeing David Schwimmer in anything besides Friends, and he's very goofy, like Pratt Folly or not? Yeah, very what do you call it? What's the
Um,
slapstick? He's very goofy and slapstick, and
mm,
and I've been told like he is an amazing actor and he does great drama as well, which is so he plays Robert Kardashian, who was one of OJ's lawyers in um, American Crime Story. So I'm watching that. I don't know how many more episodes of that I have, but I might anyway. I'm going to start watching. My next thing will be Curb Your Enthusiasm.
yeah, I've really got to get onto Curb. Yeah, a good friend of mine often he's told me about how much he loves Curb and how he's shown me like a few clips of it on YouTube, and yeah, the type of humor is just exactly my type of humor, just that like witty banter and that
Hmm.
back and forth between characters and just a situation goes from 0 to 60 because they just go down all these rabbit holes of where the conversation could go. And
Yeah,
yeah, I've always loved that kind of witty banter when it's done really well.
I took what's his name? Ah, I'm on a medicine called pregabalin, which is a nerve pain medicine, and it has the side effect of forgetting everyday ordinary words. I'm not forgetting a word
Oh,
right now.
yeah.
I'm forgetting a name. Um, I wish I could. Tim Ferguson. I took Tim Ferguson's writing class. You know Tim Ferguson?
Um, I don't think so. No, is he
He
local or?
he he no, he was in a huge comedy band in the '90s. Uh, so you're a bit young. Most Australians that are like my age or older know of what was the band called? You probably heard of the band. Um, let me just ask. Uh, hold on. Uh, 1 second. I'm asking my magic rectangle. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
What band was Tim Ferguson? That's where we need some live listeners to chime in with information. Doug Anthony All Stars.
Oh,
Do you know
my
that?
dad's talking about Doug Anthony All Stars, and
Yeah.
yeah,
See,
I
I told you. Old people know about him.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, he's in a wheelchair from MS. Um, but so I think the band active until 2017 it says, and they're from Canberra. Um, Initially they were together between 1984 and 1994, and then I think they might have broken up because of his illness. I'm not sure. And then they got back together for a little while. Tim Ferguson on main vocals. Anyway, so he taught a comedy writing class in Brisbane a few years back. Well, I think he's done it a few times, but I went a few years back, and um, he talked about how Seinfeld does this thing where they either take trivial things really seriously, or they take really serious things really trivially. And
Mm.
there's actually one example he gave was George. Um, George invents. Oh, what was it? Ah, it doesn't matter. Forget about it. But my point is, that's what I do notice in Curb Your Enthusiasm is a lot of taking trivial things very seriously. That's the more often thing. But like, so one
Yeah,
of the scenes I always remember is he is heading into the doctor's office, and this doctor doesn't go by appointment time; they go by first come first serve. So anyway, he there's a lady running to the lift, so he holds the lift open to let her in, and then when they get to the floor where the doctor is, she rushes ahead of him and gets ahead of him, so she gets to be seen by the doctor first, and this of course ruins his whole week.
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. Um,
and you,
yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
well, you've probably heard that the dialogue in that show is completely improvised.
yeah. I think. Yeah. Doesn't Larry David? He'll have like an outline of like a basic premise what he wants for the scene, but then
Yeah,
he'll just like say whatever in the scene.
yeah. So I think like that scene that I just talked about, he would have said, "Okay, what we're going to do is we're both going into the doctor's office. The lift is going to be closing, but I'm going to hold it open for you, and then you're going to rush ahead of me and get to the doctor and get to see the doctor first, and then that's it. And then they just do it. And yeah, I think it's really cool. Of course, you and I we haven't told the listeners yet, are an improv duo, and we've both been part of Big Fork Theater and Improv Mafia, now Improv Queensland. Um, so I love it. Just, it's just cool knowing about improv being in a mainstream show. But also, I think it's cool that um, the actors are doing their own writing of the lines, and they're doing it within the scene, which to me makes it feel like much more real and natural than whatever writers would have made up for them to say. Each character has their own writer, and it's the character, the actor that's playing the character, and it's done actually within the scene. I think that all makes for a much more real approach.
Ye- Yeah, that would yeah, I feel like that would make it a lot more yeah, just natural knowing that they all the actors were saying things on the fly and
Yeah,
weren't
and
having
they're
to
in
sort of
character.
rehearse it.
Yeah, like as a writer, especially a writer who's not an actor, but like as a writer, it's got to be much harder to get in character. And then it's like, yeah, as a character, being in character and in the actual scene when you're coming up with the lines just feels like the right way to do it. Of course, they don't just take one take. They'll go, okay, that was good, but let's say it this way this time, or let's do this or whatever. But still,
Mm. Yeah, no, it's still like really impressive when they can yeah, just have that just the basic outline of the scene and then have that witty banter improvised and because because I have even heard some criticism when I've watched some people review movies on YouTube where they say like, oh, this is just another comedy that's come out where they just put the camera in front of some SNL stars and just told them to riff off each other and banter
yeah,
and they and that after a while we've had so many comedies like that you know just seeing a more scripted comedy that's more rehearsed and like it is sometimes better than just seeing because sometimes like every now and then it is good to see something a bit more scripted because they can put a
refined.
bit more effort into it. But
Yeah. Well, I do that. See, I like that it's improvised, but that they also, uh, yeah, don't just do one take. Like they, they, um, they go back and refine it.
yeah, 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 because they, I guess, yeah, they can still have that opportunity to refine it and, um, yeah, like tweak certain lines that can adhere a bit more to what the writers want out of the scene and things like that.
Yep. All right. Well, that's an hour, and my lunch has just come, so I think that's a good place to end episode one, and then we'll come back for episode two sometime soon, where we'll talk about something completely different, and it might be just as good, a little bit worse, or a little bit better, because it'll be an
Yeah,
improvised conversation.
those are the three options, or four, all of the above. It'll be all of those things in one conversation.
It might be all about movies again. It might be nothing about movies. Who the hell knows? Really, who the hell knows if anyone's going to listen? It's just Sandon and I, you and I. I should just forget the audience. It's just you and I having conversations, and they happen to be recorded. And if other people want to spy on us in our conversations, whatever, that's fine. Maybe we'll be
Yeah,
Adam
you can
Curry,
turn.
who kind of invented podcasting, said that with podcasting, everyone will be famous to 15 people. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe we'll get all the way up to being famous to 15 people.
Yeah, and then we'll have a whole village of listeners, and we'll be happy.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, Shannon. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks for the maiden voyage episode, and yeah, we'll see where it
The
takes us
pilot.
in the
Let's see
future.
if we get picked up.
Yeah, the pilot. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye.